UFC 251. I gotta be honest with you, Kyle. I gotta be honest with you. I was
Be
expecting,
honest with
I
me,
was
buddy.
expecting a better card. It seemed, at first glance, it seemed like the card was stacked, maybe the best of all time, best of the year, whatever. But the night didn't exactly pan out that way, and there was definitely some good ones. Rose Namajunas definitely fought well against Jessica, and then Jose Aldo did well against Peter Yan. But I feel like the card as a whole was a little bit one-sided on a lot of the occasions, and then it just didn't lead to very interesting or exciting fights. I don't know. Starting off with the main event, we saw Jorge Masvidal fight Kamaru Usman, the 170-pound champion, on 6 days' notice. And a lot of people kind of predicted how this fight was going to go. I was kind of hoping it would go the other way, not because I hate Usman or anything, but I love Jorge Masvidal. He's a character. He's a star. You know how it goes. Just a much more interesting guy with a lot more personality to him. So you kind of root for the guy that makes things more fun. So I'm sitting here rooting for Jorge Masvidal, right? And then Usman does his thing, which is his game plan. He grinds on you, he pushes you against the fence, he pressures you at all times, takes you down, doesn't let you do anything. And he did that, and it was fantastic on his side, but I wanted to see a baptism. I'm not going to lie.
I did as well.
Yeah, we saw Jorge. Maybe he was just hyping the fights up to spike those pay-per-view numbers because he gets pay-per-view points. But he was saying he had some secret sauce. I was really interested to see what the secret sauce was. That was what got me. I thought Kamaru was gonna win until he said he had the secret sauce. I was immediately thrown to the other side. I thought Jorge's gonna sweep the floor. He's got the sauce. And yeah, he mentioned a lot of how he was a bum, not worried about him at all. Jorge said he was the worst opponent he's ever had to fight. Um, Fortunately, didn't turn out that way. And I wonder if that 6 days notice had something to do with it, because a lot of people seem to think that he was already training for Usman, maybe not as hard as if he actually had the fight set in stone. But I feel like there was definitely a notion of some sort of training before this that leads me to believe it might not have just been a 6 days notice. It might have been something more than that. I gotta ask you, Kyle, how do you feel about that main event? Jorge
Depressed.
Masvidal and Usman. What do you think?
Depressed.
Depressed. I like it.
Depressed. Very, very depressed. No, I mean, I called it. God damn it, I called it. Go back, watch our episode from last week. I said it. Usman via decision. God damn it,
You
though.
fucked it up, man.
I didn't want to be right. I didn't want to be right at all. I also wanted to see a baptism. Um, Here's the thing about the 6 days notice. I I think it played a part in the cardio, Jorge's cardio. He was definitely gassing a bit, and he admitted that after the fight in the post-fight press conference. He even said he was a little worried about his gas tank, and it didn't. It's not like he was completely just depleted by like he was still there. Uh, it wasn't total exhaustion, but his gas tank was definitely inferior to that of Usman's. And I think a training camp with a smoother weight cut definitely would have helped with that. Now, there's other things that I don't. I mean, there's some real steps you have to take in order to count. So Usman's grappling. I mean that 6 days or not, that takes a lot of figuring out, and I don't think Jorge was just quite prepared for that level of grappling. Now he did fine. Like here's the thing about the whole fight. The reason it was so disappointing is because like Jorge he got dominated but also didn't. You know? Like uh, okay, he got kind of tired towards the end and his foot got stomped a lot. What else? Like, do you think he woke up today and was like, "Oh, man, my head or my body"?
No.
Like, no, he didn't really hurt him. He just, he just like held him and didn't and prevented him from really engaging and putting together any kind of offense. Um, that's what was so disappointing about it. It wasn't like a Khabib fight where, Khabib just smothers you and then just causes obscene amounts of damage. Um, Jorge didn't really take any damage, and neither did Kamaru, and that's why it felt so. I'm not saying I need to see those guys go in there and take years off each other's lives like we saw with Dustin Poirier and Dan Hooker, but like, oh man, it felt like Usman just outpointed him, and that's it. He didn't really beat him in any kind of super convincing way. He just held him for a long period of time and didn't really allow him to put together, any kind of significant offense. And it feels cheap, It just feels kind of cheap. Now, don't get me wrong, Usman won fair and square. I mean, he didn't fight dirty or anything like that. The scorecards were fine, I guess. I mean, the two judges gave all 5 rounds to Usman, which I don't particularly agree with. I think you can give the first round to Jorge. But they obviously put a lot of stock in the takedowns. I mean, that's the thing we see with MMA judging time and time again, which we'll get into more when we talk about our co-main event for the featherweight strap. But yeah, they put a ton of stock in like a crazy amount of stock in the takedowns, regardless of how much damage is done once that takedown is achieved. It feels unsatisfying. I think that's the large sentiment around the MMA world right now. No one's arguing like, "Oh, Jorge won the fight." Like, nobody thinks that. Nobody thinks Jorge won. But people do think like, "Man, I feel I just feel like I feel deflated, I feel like just sad. I don't know. It's like it's just took the wind out of you, right? Like
Yeah.
it took the wind out of the sails of everything that was happening. Here's the thing with MMA. We always want to see like this Cinderella story, right? That we see in the movies or we see in like pro wrestling. We want to see the underdog from the streets, the guy with a great personality. He's super likable. He's got great charisma. He's charming. He's funny. He's from, he's a dog. He's a dog in the fight, and he comes up, he claws his way up for years and years and years, climbs this ladder, has so many setbacks, then becomes a sensation, a superstar, and then he conquers the highest mountain and takes the title. And we could still get that Cinderella story, right? We could still get that awesome conclusion to the saga of Jorge Masvidal. This could just be one setback in the road. But man, we wanted it. We wanted it so bad. We wanted to see that underdog story, that Rocky Balboa. Well, Rocky, hey, Rocky lost in the first movie, right? So,
Spoilers,
maybe,
man.
what?
Oh my god. Spoiler alert, really?
Sorry,
No, you're
spoilers
right,
for
though.
the original Rocky.
It's definitely
But
not the end of Jorge Masvidal.
yeah, it's a bump in the road. It's sad. It sucks. It's disappointing. It's unsatisfying. Um, Especially because it doesn't feel like he got like beaten definitively. It doesn't feel like he got destroyed or anything like that. Like the way Usman destroyed Tyron Woodley, like that was like utter domination and just so impressive. This was impressive, but oh man, it just feels so. I feel like oh man, I feel I'm having trouble describing it how I feel, other than just disappointed and kind of depressed and.
Dude, I agree completely. I don't know how to. It is like you said, it's like a deflating feeling. I don't know. All that hype and suspense, and then it just kind of slowly turned out to be nothing. It's not like a quick
fizzles
end,
out.
too. It was just a 25-minute, like, disappointment fest. It's not like we got, like, with Ben Askren, like, we were huge Ben Askren fans. At least we got that over with quick when Jorge
Yeah,
murdered him. But with
and
this, you
and
just
it
had to watch the grind,
and it created one of the most memorable iconic moments in MMA history. You know, like you said, we were both Ben Askren. I mean, we are Ben Askren. I still love Ben Askren. I love following him on social media and seeing everything he has to say. I think the guy's hilarious. Um, Another one with just a great personality, and obviously a very talented wrestler, a very decorated and illustrious career. And we were both rooting for him going into the Masvidal fight, but he just he got kneed into another dimension. But you're right. It felt like a definitive closure to that. It didn't feel cheap. This felt cheap, you know?
It did. It did. And you know what wasn't cheap? The pay-per-view price. That was
Exactly.
$64.99 for this.
It's like $68 for that.
We didn't just get disappointed. We paid to be disappointed. That's where the
Yeah.
real killer comes
And
in.
it wasn't just that fight that disappointed me.
And I mean, buying pay-per-views is a bet in and of itself.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
always
it's
a
not like
gamble.
I expected like 100% of the pay-per-view to be great because I bought it. No, that's not how it works. It's real world. Reality doesn't work like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, disappointing end.
Boy, I love
I
illegally streaming them.
Oh yeah, dude. That's that. There's no greater thrill than not paying money for pay-per-view events.
Yeah, it's true.
But this should have been one that you pirated, folks. Let's just say that. It's not a bad card. It's just this. If this was like a fight night, it would have been fantastic, right? But this is a pay-per-view, so our expectations are a little higher. So the card itself, decent, but that main event, disappointing. Usman though, I that man is he's a force to be reckoned with, and I think that if he fought his original opponent, which was supposed to be Gilbert Burns, and if you don't know much about Gilbert Burns, he dominated Tyron Woodley in almost the exact same way that Kamaru Usman did, but I would say more definitively, much more. He was much more active during that fight and did a lot more damage to Tyron, and I think that their styles are just so much more comparable than to someone like Jorge Masvidal, who looked great on the feet, looked snappy as ever. And I was feeling real excited when he was throwing down against Kamaru, and he was landing a lot of his shots. But Kamaru just has this granite chin, and it's just not. I feel like knocking him out isn't even an option, even
Yeah,
for someone like Jorge Masvidal, who has that phantom power in his strikes. I mean, you saw what he did to was it Stephen Thompson that he fought? Or is that I'm thinking of Anthony Pettis fighting Stephen Thompson?
you're thinking of Anthony
Yeah,
Pettis.
okay. So he fought Darren Till.
Darren
Hey.
Till, yeah.
Hey, it's okay. There'll be another card Wednesday.
Willie's like, I want my $68 back.
Yeah. So I mean, you saw what he did to Darren Till, and a large amount of that fight was Darren Till kind of beating him up, and then at the end he came back and finished him. And I was kind of hoping for that same effect. I was really excited to see maybe he gets dominated like he always does. Not like he always does, but in recent history, he gets dominated a little bit, and then he comes back and he gets the finish. And I was hoping for something like that. And again, not that I despise Kamaru Usman, but I really wanted to see Jorge Masvidal as a champion. Imagine the storyline with that, like you were saying. This guy comes in 6 days' notice, replaces Gilbert Burns, now he wins the belt. I mean, it's a great story. And Dana White would have loved that, and we all would have loved that, but fortunately not the reality of the situation.
It's the curse of being on the UFC game.
Yes, like I was trying to say when I started this, I think Gilbert Burns would have a great time with Kamaru Usman.
Yes.
I don't think that Kamaru would be able to withstand the rush that Gilbert Burns would give him.
I think it would be a much more competitive fight, Gilbert and Kamaru, than Kamaru and Jorge. Yeah, I think Gilbert would give him a real hard time. Like you said, their skill sets are much more in line. Um, and yeah, I saw, who was it? It was Ariel Helwani talking about how he thinks like Gilbert needs one more fight and then give him the title shot. I don't get that at all. Gilbert already earned the title shot. You gotta give that guy the next shot. I mean, he got unlucky, right? The world's in an epidemic, or a pandemic or whatever. The guy, he got screwed, you know. It's nobody's fault. There was nothing he could have done. I mean, I guess you could argue he could have taken better precautions. He probably did, you know. There's millions of people getting infected with this virus. He got unlucky, but I don't think it's right to give him another fight, give him or Usman another fight until they face each other. You gotta give Gilbert that title fight. He earned it. It was already set to go. You gotta give it to him. And like you said, I think he's gonna give him a much harder time. Gilbert is absolutely just has this killer instinct on the ground. He's a legit BJJ black belt. I'm not saying Jorge doesn't have any kind of skill set on the ground. I mean, he held it. He held his own against Kamaru. He didn't get finished, but Gilbert would be like it. Usman's game plan against Jorge. Usman's game plan, period, because this is just what he does. He does this against Gilbert. It's much riskier, much riskier, because his biggest risk in this fight with Masvidal was not engaging in his game plan. It was not engaging in that game plan. It was refusing to do what he did and standing with him and going toe to toe. That was the most dangerous part for Usman in this fight, would be to do the opposite of what he did, which is why, he fought a smart fight. Credit to him. He kept his title. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. But Gilbert, if you employ that game plan of, just grinding, grappling up against the fence, that whole thing, you're taking a much bigger risk. And you're taking a risk when you're standing with him. Gilbert is one of the most well-rounded welterweights in the world. So it's incredibly dangerous to employ that grindy style against him. He's going to make you pay for it.
I got to ask, obviously I think Gilbert is next in line, but what do you do with Jorge in this kind of situation? I don't really know where to put him, because on one hand you could say he lost this because of the 6 days notice, so maybe he doesn't deserve to be knocked back too far, but on the other hand, there's so many people in line that deserve that. Like you said, I don't know what to do with them. What do you think
you could
should
put him in a lot of different fights.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that's gonna make any fight interesting. I think people are gonna watch. I don't think Jorge Masvidal lost any stock in this fight. If
Not at
anything, he
all.
gained fans because people hate Usman. They really don't like him, and this did no favors for him in that regard. In regard for the hatred and just lack of fans. I think people sympathize with Jorge more than they did prior to this fight. Not saying like they feel sorry for him or anything, but they're like, damn, man, you kind of, well, you got screwed, but it feels cheap, like I said. So Jorge lost no stock. Jorge can do a lot of different things. I wouldn't mind a Wonder Boy fight. I mean, who are some of the other names at 170 that he could take on?
I wouldn't mind seeing him fight Leon Edwards, because he doesn't really have an opponent right now.
Yeah,
unless you give him some like Tyron, but I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about the Tyron fight, but Leon Edwards, that's good because there's pre-existing conflict there.
Exactly.
They don't like each other.
Oh yeah,
they had that backstage brawl.
That's in my opinion that would be the next way to go. But I mean, Dana, I don't know how Dana and Sean Shelby and all of them view this loss. I hope they don't view it as something that knocks them back. I don't think they will, based on the circumstances. But
he's still got massive star power.
Yeah, that's what I don't think he would fight someone that's low anyway, because he really is in it for a lot of reasons, for the money, and he's not going to get money if he fights someone lower on the rankings. So I think that Leon Edwards would be a marketable masterpiece, especially with that little scruffle they got into backstage. 3-piece and a soda, I mean, it makes sense.
The problem is people don't know Leon Edwards.
No.
But, I mean, like I said, I think Jorge could make it an interesting fight for, like, you could market this and bring Leon into the wider audience. Excuse me. Yeah, because not that many people know him outside of the UK, and they should. The guy's very talented. He's incredibly dangerous. I think he's one of the most dangerous people at welterweight, one of the most well-rounded for sure. So yeah, I think that fight would be excellent. If you asked me, a few months ago, I would say no, I don't think it's the right time for that, because Jorge was just on this crazy upward trajectory, right? the Till knockout, then the Asker knockout, and then the BMF fight with Nate, and obviously it ended in a bit of an anticlimactic fashion, but Jorge still won very convincingly. He looked terrific in that fight. So he was on this crazy upward trajectory where I would have said to you, no, Leon's not the right move right now. You got to give him someone bigger than that. Not that Leon isn't a monumental challenge for him. He absolutely is. It's the star power thing. I just don't think Leon was up there with him at that time. Now that he's had the title shot and we all saw how that went, while I don't think it sets him back a lot, it sets him back a little bit, just a tad. And now I think it's the right time for the Leon Edwards fight. But at the same time, man, I'd love to see a Conor fight. That would probably be the biggest pay-per-view of all time.
I think it
don't know if that'll ever happen. Conor's been quiet. He didn't say anything in regards to this fight. I think it would, if Jorge had beaten Usman, and two, if it was a little more of a spectacular, finish, maybe if it was a crazy knockout or something, I think we'd maybe hear from Conor. But he's been quiet because there's not a whole lot to say,
Yeah. I think Conor's style would match up well against Kamaru Usman. I think that's the fight. That's the fight. You imagine Conor fighting Usman? That would
be the exact same fight we just watched.
Yeah, pretty much. I thought Jorge looked really good in that first round, though. I would love to see him in there again soon. He's such an entertaining guy to watch.
Give him one or two opponents, and then give him Usman again.
I mean, he said in that after the fight ended, he said, "I'm gonna get a couple wins, and we'll run it back." And I think that's the right move. If he beats Leon Edwards, though, does he really need to beat someone else? I don't know, because
that's a good point, because
Leon's he's not a slouch by any means. He's a dangerous fellow. So
because beating Leon proves that you have improved significantly since the Usman fight. Now, there's a ton of factors there, like, preparation being number one. You could say if he was to beat Leon in a very convincing manner, like, let's say it's not a decision and it's not controversial or whatever, it tells you maybe that preparation, like, say he went into the Leon fight with a proper training camp, didn't have the harsh weight cut, all that, everything was kosher. I think it tells you that maybe the lack of preparation and the rough weight cut did have a significant impact on the Usman fight, and it gives you greater reason to see a rematch. And whether or not it's true is irrelevant. If that's the narrative you could spin, then it becomes much more interesting. So I think you're right. If he was to beat Leon Edwards, I think that's the right move for him. He needs to go try to fight Leon Edwards with a proper training camp, proper weight cut, all that. Do everything right and try to beat Leon Edwards. And I think that puts him back in the title contention, because Leon, it's not the same if you were to beat someone like Wonder Boy, who is a almost pure striker. That is more in line with Jorge's style, right? Like kind of like the Nate fight, where he's able to look good. But anyway, just finalizing everything there, I do think Leon is the right fight for Jorge Masvidal right now. If he can go out and beat Leon Edwards, it puts him in a great spot to fight either Usman or Gilbert Burns, depending on who has the title there. I'll be pissed if they don't give Gilbert Burns the immediate title shot. I mean, obviously, you're going to have to...
Oh, I'm sorry.
What?
I saw Ariel Helwani tweet that the fight to make is Leon Edwards versus Gilbert Burns, and then go after Usman. I'm like, he's like, that's all, that's fair, and I'm like, that's not fair. This guy should have gotten the title.
At all. Give Usman time to recover and have a proper training camp. Give Gilbert time to recover, because he has to recover from something too. Don't forget.
Gilbert's going to be out for a while, and I mean, who knows how long this is going to take. Because this virus is a little bit touchy on the time it stays inside of you. So
just give everyone a minute.
I don't get how that's fair to take away the title fight because of a virus. when Gilbert is more deserving than anybody on this planet.
I don't think there's anything wrong with putting it on hold. You have to put it on hold, right? To
Yeah.
just keep the
Yeah.
ball rolling. You know, they did that. They
leaves Usman open for so many months. If you were to set up Gilbert and Leon and then have that winner fight Usman, that's like a 6-month venture right there. If you account how long it's going to take for him to recover from the virus, get approved to fight again, and then go through a proper training camp. What are you going to do with Usman? How is that fair?
Yeah.
I don't know. Ariel is smoking that crack pipe.
Get
you know
out
how
of here,
he is.
Helwani. None of that shit.
Maybe that was
Gilbert...
his fake account. I don't know. There's like that fake Ariel Helwani account that stirs trouble around.
I follow him on Instagram and I saw the same thing,
Yeah.
so it's real. Gilbert's next. No matter how long it takes, give everyone time to recover properly and give everyone time to train properly. Gilbert is next. There is no other option. And then I think you're right about Leon and Jorge.
I don't think Gilbert would have any trouble with Jorge Masvidal though. If Gilbert wins against Usman and then Masvidal wins against Leon and then we have Jorge versus Gilbert Burns, that's a tough one.
It's a very
I don't know
tough
about
fight
that
for Jorge.
But we have to remember that at 155, and this was much earlier in Gilbert Burns' career, Dan Hooker did knock him out pretty significantly. So I mean, Jorge's got that Dan Hooker power, so
Gilbert's
it's
much more likely than Usman to like stand and trade with you.
Oh, easily, 100%. But I think he's much more likely to submit you as well.
Yeah,
you know,
he's dangerous, dude.
Even Damian Maia said one of the greatest I've ever rolled with on the ground. That's Damian Maia right there. That's the king of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Calling you the king of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Is.
Oh man. So my conclusion here is that the Cinderella story not over yet. He lost his first Rocky movie. That's fine. Jorge, you were supposed to lose. This is the storyline. Dana White was pulling the strings the whole time.
Yeah, it's part of the script.
Yeah, no, 100%. This is WWE after all. So what happens now is here's the ideal storyline. We got Jorge. He fights Leon, gives him the 3-piece and a soda. Boom, he wins. And maybe Gilbert Burns wins, maybe he doesn't. Either way, he fights them. Rocky 2, baby. Here we go. Does he win in the second movie?
Here's the thing. What if Leon beats Jorge? Then what?
Well, that's why I'm ignoring that entirely. That's how you do it. You have to ignore the circumstances that don't suit you and your personal desires. You know what I mean? No, I mean, here's the thing. Leon, he's a little deadly, but I did see that media scruffle, and Jorge, he got the TKO.
Yeah, you won by unanimous decision.
He beat the shit out of him. Yeah, I mean, they pulled him right out of there. He wasn't intelligently defending himself.
Speaking of decisions, shall we move on to our co-main?
Okay, so this brings a lot of pain to my heart as a Max Holloway fan. We saw Max Holloway rematch Alexander Volkanovski, who took the belt from him in the first fight. And we said it was a pretty clear decision on Volkanovski beating Max Holloway in that first fight, I would say. I think he won that belt fair and square, and he wanted the rematch. Max wanted the rematch. Everyone wanted the rematch. So they get the rematch. And you see Max Holloway coming out, and you got to wonder, does he make the adjustments with this new training camp on Zoom that he talked so plentifully about? So without a proper camp and all of this other training disadvantages that he has going on, would he be able to come back and beat a champion who just beat him when Max had a full training camp? And a lot of people didn't think so. You know, he's in a worse situation than he was when he got beaten the first time. But you see Max come back, and he makes the adjustments that he needs to make. He wins the first 3 rounds, in my professional opinion, and most people's professional opinions. He decisively won those first 3 rounds. And I could say definitely not as decisive on the 3rd round. That was definitely closer than the first 2, but I still think Max stole the 3rd round. And then Alexander won the 4th and the 5th. Now, to give Volkanovski that victory, that's just a stab in the heart of every MMA fan, because Dana White himself, the man who's never wrong, even said, does anyone else think that Volkanovski won? Really? Nobody? No? He was very upset with the judges' decisions there, as most people were, including myself. And I think Max should be the champion right now. And it really hurts me to see him get it, right? He comes back, he beats him. Another Cinderella story. And then it's gone. It's like the author of a book who just flips the script of the ending at the last second and ruins the entire storyline. It's
Last
kind of
of Us
like The
Part
Last of
2.
Us Part 2. Yeah, there you
Oh
go.
my god, we made the same joke.
It's literally Neil Druckmann is behind this fight. And I don't know. I mean, the judging, you could argue that their first red flag was during that Rose Namajunas fight versus Jessica Andrade. You had to give Rose 2 rounds, and then Jessica won, so a 29-28 Rose. But one of the judges gave it to Jessica, and I was like, oh boy, I am worried about the rest of the night and how these judges are gonna you know vote on these decisions. And I think you felt that way as well when you saw that fight, and I think we were both a little scared when this went to decision, and then boom, you got the heartbreak. Max Holloway loses, and still Alex Volkanovski champion. It hurts me. What do you think?
Here's something interesting is everyone, whenever there's a questionable decision, everyone says robbery, 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 robbery. Everyone uses that word. That's what they all say. And then the response to that is always MMA media going, not a robbery. It's not robbery at all. It was close. Not robbery. Okay, fine. But here's here's the thing. I have not seen a single person other than those 3 judges, or 2 judges actually, because it was a split decision, say that Volkanovski won that fight. So on one hand, you have these MMA media guys like Ariel Helwani, like Luke Thomas, all these guys that are saying, "Hey, it was close, not a robbery, but I scored it for Max." Like, what the hell are you saying here? Like, if it's so widespread that people think Max won the fight, then maybe it is a fucking robbery. Like, I get that word gets thrown around a lot, but everyone is saying they think he won. They're saying it was close. They're saying, hey, it wasn't, the worst decision I've ever seen, but it wasn't good either. But not a robbery. What the fuck constitutes as a robbery then? Does it have to be just like complete nonsense? Like does it have to be like, if Usman and Tyron, if they scored it for Tyron in their title fight, is that what constitutes as a robbery, hypothetically, if they scored it for Tyron in that fight? Like, I don't understand why it's like MMA media gets so hung up on criticizing people who criticize decisions, but at the same time, you're agreeing that the decision was wrong. I guess that I could, I could see where spots where Volk won the fight. Um, I think he won the last 2 rounds, but I think Max won the first 3. Uh, that's another thing. I don't understand why it seems to be that a lot of judges seem to count the last 2, the championship rounds, more than they count everything else. Like, that's not a rule. That's not a thing that you should be doing. You should not. You should be, all rounds matter equally. There is no round that counts more than the other. Although, even though that's not a rule, it seems like that's like an unspoken mindset amongst these judges. I don't get it. We see it time and time again where somebody will dominate in the beginning and then they might start lagging behind at the end and then they lose. It's simple math. If you win 3 and lose 2, you still win the fight. It's not as difficult as we're making it out to be. It's really not. I get that the scoring system is fucked. The judging criteria is very bad. The 10-point must scoring system doesn't work. But when you have everybody saying the same thing, chances are they're not wrong. I mean, I get that a lot of people will just echo whatever sentiments they hear on social media. You know, people love to parrot each other. And when a lot of people are saying something, everyone will hop on that bandwagon and just agree with it. But at the same time, I mean, what is this? Is this some kind of like infallible dictatorship where the judges can say no wrong? It's like, well, we criticize them, but at the end of the day, they're the ones who count. Why? Why is that the case? Why is this so like undemocratic? You know? Why do we leave it up to three boneheads who can't fucking look at anything with two working eyes and see, clear decisions? And the commentators, I get that you're a commentator and you don't want to criticize, the too much because it looks weird and everything. But every time we get a questionable decision, I swear, every fucking time I hear Bisping or Cruz go, hey, well, listen, and then they justify it. They always start with that, too. Listen to how many times Bisping said, hey, well, listen, last night. They say it all the goddamn time. No, I don't want to listen anymore. I'm done listening to this shit. Like, I don't. Why? Why are they allowed to ruin this shit all the time? Can't we just do better? Like, we have so many people that are qualified to look at these things and see the right. Like, we just stand for it. We stand so much for just garbage. We go, wow, that was bad, but hey, it's gonna happen again. Why? Why do we stand for that? Can't we do something about it? Can't we make it better? Can't we, like, anything? Let's just do anything, because it's been this way for so long with both reffing and judging, where we're like, yeah, that was pretty terrible, but chances are it'll happen again because we ain't gonna do shit about it other than say how bad it was. And then you'll have a bunch of people being like, yeah, it was bad, but it could have been worse. Or yeah, it was bad, but like, I'm not gonna criticize it. I could see it both ways. Like, what the fuck, man? Stop being so neutral. I don't know. I'm mad. I love Max Holloway. That was so disappointing. Stop screwing shit up, man.
Imagine if you were watching the NFL and you see a really close game, and maybe the Packers are up 48 and the Steelers are at 47, but the judges say, I think the Steelers are going to win this fight or this match, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. I feel like
and you have all the fans agreeing on one thing.
They make it subjective when it should be more of an objective thing. We should have people counting statistics, not three people watching a fight and saying, oh, I think this is what's happening. I think this is what's happening. We should have actual systems here to count every single strike, every single takedown, and count it up. I mean, you see them literally doing it by the end of the fight. They have the statistics on the screen for you. Why are we not doing something like every other professional sport does, besides most combat sports, unfortunately, where we just get the score, officially weigh it in at the end, and say, all right, that's it? Why do we have these subjective people who probably don't know anything about fighting judging the fighting? And like you said, it's literally expected at this point. We just allow it to be this way. And how are you going to allow this at the highest level of professional fighting? How are you going to allow judges to screw it up and say, oh, well, it could have been worse? Let me tell you something about robberies. If I rob a bank, that's still a robbery. If I rob an old lady, that's still a robbery. It doesn't matter how much the robbery is, it's still considered a robbery. So if you look at Jose Aldo, Marlon Moraes, yeah, I think that's a robbery. Jose Aldo definitely won that fight.
Yeah.
If I look at Max Holloway and Alex, that was close. Still a robbery. He still stole that fight. I don't think you need to destroy a decision that hard to make it a robbery. I think it's a robbery if the person who deserved to win the fight doesn't win the fight based on the judges' scorecards, regardless of how close it is. I don't get it.
MMA media shares the same sentiments, but like are afraid of that word.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, it's you can't say it's a robbery. Can't say it's a robbery. I scored it for Max, but you can't say it's a robbery. What the fuck are you saying, man? That's a contradiction. Like I understand robbery tends to imply like, oh my god, they screwed it up so bad. And this wasn't the worst decision of all time. That doesn't make it like okay. That doesn't make it be like, oh well, it was a bad decision, wasn't the worst decision, so I'm not gonna get upset about it. And then you had Dana after the fight being like, who in here scored it for Volk? Nobody raises their fucking hands. He seems like he doesn't agree Volk won it. And then he goes, yeah, we need to get some better judging here on Fight Island. Guess what? You're not going to. I could already tell you, it's going to be the same three dickheads that you had this week, doing it next week, doing it the week after that. You're not going to do anything about it. Same with the reffing. You're not going to do anything about it. So why even pretend like you're going to?
Look, the fact that they're even saying it's close and it could have gone either way implies that there is no unified rule sets of MMA. Doesn't saying it could have gone either way imply that the entire thing is subjective in nature and that there's no
Yeah,
actual scoring system that is definitive and out there? I don't get it. I
and
really
some
don't.
I think it was Bisping, uh, or maybe it was John Anik. I don't know. One of them brought up a good point last night. Was like, hey, you might have one judge that's like got a complete wrestling background, and then another judge who's got a complete boxing background, or the best case scenario, they have no combat sports background at all. They're barely a fan. They just show up in their nice suit with their pencil and write down whatever fucking number they feel. Um, but it's true. Depending on what these people favor, like I personally, I don't understand at all how they put so much stock in takedowns. Dominic Cruz does. Dominic Cruz thinks a takedown is like, well, you won the fight if you get a takedown. It doesn't matter what you do with it. But me, and I think you could tell by his commentary, Bisping also feels this way. If you get a takedown, but the person gets back to their feet like right away, or the person on top doesn't do any kind of really significant damage or anything like that. Just if they get the takedown, they just hold them there for a little bit. It barely matters. That's how I feel. I think that's how Bisping feels. But other people feel differently. We need to start deciding what, like you said, we're making it too subjective here. And another thing that really sucks is that these judges, they have to write down their score at the end of a round immediate. They have to judge that round immediately, and that's it. That's their score for that round. There's no changing it. There's no thinking about it, which is another thing. You get no time to think. I mean, the end of that round, you get no replays, or at least I don't think so. You don't get any statistics like we do. You just, well, you watched it for 5 minutes. You better write down a number and be ready to go in the next 30 seconds, because right now, they're getting iced up, they're getting the water, and they're going to be ready to go in 10 more seconds. So you just got to write down 10-9, Alexander Volkanovski. Okay, next round, here we go. And I mean, there's no accountability. We don't know who these people are. They're completely faceless. We have no idea what their criteria is as a judge. We have no idea what their background is. What makes them qualified to be a judge, to decide on people's careers like this, to decide whether Max Holloway becomes world champion or not. That's a big decision. Like that's a monumental thing. I don't think we properly acknowledge enough. You are deciding Max Holloway's career right here. You're deciding whether he is world champion again or not, the greatest featherweight in the world. You're deciding whether or not he gets to get that title again, and whether or not he did enough to do it. Guess what? He did do enough to do it. He won round 1, 2, and 3. I get that round 3 was close, but I think he won it.
Look,
And go ahead.
uh, here's the thing. I'm trying to think of a way to word this here. Here, I'm gonna let you go ahead while I try to formulate this sentence here. Go ahead.
I mean, that's really all I got. It's disappointing. There's a lack of any kind of real criteria, and the criteria that's in place is not good. Um, and we need to do better, and we keep saying we're going to do better, but I don't believe it. I don't see it. I haven't seen any kind of change. Like, well, when is this change going to occur, Dana? Like, you're talking about, like, oh yeah, it was bad. It's been bad for years. For years, since before I was a real fan. I can go back and find 10 decisions that are off, like major decisions, like championship fights. I can go back and take 5 minutes and find them before, like 10 years before I was a fucking UFC fan. Like George St. Pierre and Johnny Hendricks, like
Yeah.
just garbage judging. And same goes for refereeing. I think refereeing has improved significantly, but then we see what we saw last night with Jose Aldo and Petr Yan. We're like, maybe it hasn't improved as much as we thought.
Before we talk about Jose Aldo and Petr Yan, I wanted to mention you talked a lot about good stuff there with the judging and how they view fights, and you mentioned the takedowns and how they view them as more than they should. And if you look at the unified rules, right, it's all about damage, the damage you do and the damage you don't take, and whoever does more damage will win a fight. Obviously, it's not that simple, but if you take a takedown and you strip it to its barest form, you get a takedown that doesn't do any damage. Am I wrong? If you look at a right hook that lands on your chin and then compare it to a takedown, the damage isn't really that comparable. So I don't think that getting a takedown alone, such as what Alexander Volkanovski did, really counts for much when he didn't do anything with it. The point is to do damage. You take your opponent down to do damage after you get him down. You put him in a vulnerable position. But does putting him in a vulnerable position and then doing no damage really have any meaning to it? And
Well,
I'm not talking about a takedown such as like Jessica Andrade, who slams Rose and knocks her out, but I'm talking about an average single leg, double leg takedown, whatever, off the cage. It's not doing much damage. Yeah, it's tiring, but it's all about the damage, Kyle. The damage. Darren, the damage Elkins. Come
the
on.
thing is that when you score a takedown, while that in itself might not be causing damage, you are also preventing your opponent from causing any damage. So it becomes a stalemate, so to speak. And when it becomes a stalemate, you have to look at your next factor. So it's not damage anymore. So what are we looking at? We're looking at control. So how much control is the fighter that scored the takedown? How much is he controlling his opponent? And um, yeah, I think it's nullifying the other person's ability to mount any kind of offense, and then it becomes a question of control less so than damage. But if you're Max Holloway and you're getting right back to your feet, that's got to count for something. That's impressive. Volkanovski's a terrific wrestler, and he took you down. Okay, fair enough, but you got right back up. That's got to be something. You have to put some respect on that.
Yeah,
Right?
100%. Then there's one more thing about championship fights that I dislike, and this notion you mentioned that they seem to weigh the championship rounds more heavily than the first three, and I think you're right about that. And I also think that for some reason there's this idea that you can't just edge a champion out. You have to beat a champion. You have to definitively beat a champion. You can't just edge them out on points. And you see that with something like John Jones, Dominic Reyes. You know, a close fight means that the champion will win. And I don't understand where that mindset has come from. You
Yeah,
see the
it's like
same
this
thing with Max, yeah.
unspoken. It's like this unspoken rule almost, but like it's not a
But
rule.
yeah, it's
It
not a
doesn't say
rule.
that anywhere. The same
Yeah.
way it doesn't say 4 and 5 count more than 1, 2, and 3. So what?
The whole system is busted, and I think they should literally
The
switch to something
game
that
is
works.
rigged.
It was right from the start. Benny was right. All right. So about that other fight we mentioned, Jose Aldo fighting Petr Yan for the bantamweight title. That was a really good fight. I liked that a lot. The first 4 rounds, very competitive. Jose Aldo brought back his signature leg kicks and was spinning not Alexander Volkanovski. He was spinning Petr Yan around every time he kicked him in the leg. That's some power, and I think that's a credit to his background in football. Right, he was pretty big into that in Brazil, and this man just
Yeah.
chops your legs up. And then on top of that, his striking looked fantastic in the hands as well. And then Petr Yan just came right back every time. That dude is literally a Terminator. You destroy his legs, you destroy his face. Doesn't show at all. Doesn't care. Yeah, you switching stances, but he didn't seem to be too bad in his switch stance either. So you see this guy with infinite cardio just coming at you, and Jose Aldo starts slowing down in that 5th round or 4th round. I'm not exactly sure. I think it was the 5th round, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, he starts slowing down in that 5th round, and you see this Russian juggernaut coming at you, just battered, but not caring at all. And that was a crazy fight. That's something you would see in the movies, I think. I was standing up for a lot of it. It got me really excited. Part
Yeah,
of
it
that's
was
because I'm a huge fan of Jose, and I'm watching him just chop this guy's legs apart and go up top. And oh man, how did you
Pete.
feel about it?
Peter was taking some crazy abuse at
Yeah,
first, like seemingly unfazed. You know, the leg kicks were definitely doing something, but he was taking some body shots that would put most people down, and he wasn't flinching. It was crazy. Like some of those left hooks to the body that Jose throws, right around the liver, right under the rib. Peter was just walking through them. It was nuts. The dude was able to withstand a lot and then just turn the tide and really take it to Jose Aldo. Yeah, I mean, the guy's a champ. It was definitely, of the three championship fights, it was the most impressive performance. Like, he was the one, of the three champions last night, he was the one that looked most like a champion, I would say. Uh,
100%.
he looked terrific, and he's going to be a serious problem for the bantamweight division. I do think some of the younger guys are going to give him more of a challenge than Jose did. Jose is, I mean, Jose's not old. He's 33, but it feels like he's been around for. It feels like he's been around for 33 years.
Yeah.
Fighting, that is. But yeah, I think guys like Aljamain Sterling, maybe even Sugar Sean O'Malley might give Peter Yan more problems. But last night, he definitely looked like the greatest bantamweight in the world, without question. He didn't leave any um like doubt in our
Yeah, no
minds, you know.
questions whatsoever. You know.
I didn't walk away from that fight thinking like, man, I don't know if Peter Yan is actually the bantamweight champ. No, Peter Yan is the bantamweight champ, and I 135 is gonna it's gonna have a rough time with him. The rest of the division is gonna have a very rough time for him with him. I would not be surprised if he's champion for a long time. I don't think we're gonna see him fall anytime soon. Personally, I'm a huge Aljamain Sterling fan. I'd love to see Aljo become champ. I don't know how that fight's gonna look. He looked terrific against is it Corey or Cody Sandhagen? It's Corey Sandhagen, right?
Yes, Corey Sandhagen.
Yeah,
I think you got me second guessing myself though. I'm not
I
gonna
think
lie.
it's Corey.
Corey
Um,
Sandhagen. Yeah.
he looked great against Corey Sandhagen, but I think Peter Yan is just a different animal. I will also be interested to see how Cody Garbrandt stacks up with the rest of the bantamweight division, because that dude looks just reinvigorated in every facet. And he had that just remarkable knockout against Rafael Assunção a few weeks back. Uh, I'm really going to be interested to see how bantamweight shakes out right now. I would love to see Cody Garbrandt, after like one or two more fights, get another title shot, because when I think about the hardest fights for Peter Yan right now, I think about Cody Garbrandt, Sugar Sean O'Malley, and Aljamain Sterling. And of those three, I think Garbrandt might give him the most trouble. I do. The Garbrandt that we saw against Rafael Assunção looked like championship caliber. We didn't get to see a whole lot of Aljamain against Corey Sand. You know, that fight was quick, and he looked great. No, I'm not discrediting him at all. And Sean has also looked great, but the competition is not quite championship caliber that he's going up against. But Cody has already conquered huge mountains, and he's looking better than he did when he conquered those. And of course, I'm speaking about the Dominic Cruz fight. I mean, beating Dominic Cruz is one of the greatest feats any fighter can achieve. I mean, that is remarkable, being able to beat a legend like that. And of course, he lost to TJ twice, but then he comes back against Rafael Assunção, and he looks terrific. He looks even better, I think, than he did in the Dominic Cruz fight. So he might be I'm gonna say it right now. I think Cody Garbrandt might be the toughest challenge for Peter Yan at 135. I don't know if there's anyone else that's gonna give Peter Yan quite as much difficulty as Cody Garbrandt. I know that's looking ahead a bit, like far ahead. I don't think we're gonna see that fight for a bit. But yeah, I'm I'm gonna say that I've been a little bit like Mystic Mac lately. I've been predicting these things as our boy Connor would say when I predicted, unfortunately, the main event last night. I'm not happy I predicted it.
I'm not gonna forgive you for that either.
Yeah, I fucked it up.
It's all right. It happens. I
Yeah.
forgive you.
So you'll recall too. I also predicted Ben Askren and Jorge Masvidal. Did I remember? Like minutes before the fight started, I said,
You
What if,
did.
what if Jorge comes out and just knocks him out immediately? There was something else I predicted
Something,
recently,
yeah. You have a knack for these things, and I can't think of what that other time was, but I know there was another time out
there
there.
was a somewhat recent thing that I predicted.
It was dangerously close.
Yeah.
Look,
Oh,
I
shit.
think that the Cody Garbrandt train is gonna come here much sooner than you think, because after Aljamain Sterling and Petr Yan fight, who else really is there besides Henry Cejudo coming out of retirement? I mean, you have a lot of good names out there, but who would be better than Cody Garbrandt? This is one of the biggest bantamweights out there, especially after what happened to Rafael Sunsao. That was one of the greatest knockouts of the year, if not the greatest
Yes.
knockout of the year. So I think you're gonna see the Cody train much sooner than expected, provided he wins his next fight or maybe next two fights.
Calm down.
I think
I'm on board.
if he wins his next fight, he's probably gonna get a title shot, because this is a championship guy who has
Yeah.
obviously reinvented himself, and I think Dana's gonna want to throw him up there again. And
It's crazy to think he's a former champ. Like
yeah,
the dude is so young.
and a
To
guy
think
like
he's already
Cruz
done
too,
that.
like you defeat Dominic
Yeah.
Cruz to get your
That's
title,
insane,
like
man.
that. And he didn't just defeat him; he won almost every round, if I'm correct. I remember watching that. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I definitely remember him significantly dominating Dominic Cruz and dancing while doing it. Such a
Yeah.
good guy. But back on the Jose Aldo Petr Yan fight, or Peter Pan, whatever. I don't know what his name is. Everyone pronounces it different, but I'm gonna go with what
Yeah.
he says it is, and he says it's Piotr, so we'll go with that.
Piotr?
Yeah, Petr Yan. I
I've heard him say it's not that.
That's the thing, though. I've also heard him say it's not that, but recently he's like, "It's not Peter, it's Piotr," and I'm like, "Well, you've said other," and then he comes and says Peter again, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" Okay, but anyway,
I've heard Petr as well.
yeah, Petr. It's a cool name if it's Piotr. I think Peter is a lot less menacing than Piotr.
Yeah.
But names aside, I think that the Jose Aldo fight with him was probably the main event in my book. That was the greatest fight on the card. Second to Rose Namajunas and Jessica Andrade, but that whole fight just felt like a complete war until the end. And it's
Yeah.
really nice to have new blood as a champion.
Mhm.
Petr Yan is a champion. He's only been doing this for 2 years in the UFC.
That's
Am I
nuts.
correct? That's insane. And this guy is already a champion. That might be the quickest rise to championship in bantamweight history. Of course, maybe Dominic Cruz beat that, because I think he was immediately crowned champion when the UFC bought Strikeforce, if I'm correct. But that's a technicality. In the end, this guy came out 2 years, rose to the top, and I am so excited to see what kind of matchups this kind of opens the door for, because this new blood, it opens the door to a lot of the good fights, a lot of good stuff. I mean, Aljamain Sterling, like you said, that's probably going to be the next one. That's good. I like that. Aljo is a little unpredictable. He's like a loose cannon. I feel like he's gonna go in there like Mike Perry at that Texas House bar, and he's gonna do some wacky stuff. Because I remember.
Let's hope he doesn't drop any racial slurs. along the
Well,
way.
he can. That's the thing.
I guess he is actually black, unlike
Yeah.
Mike Perry.
Well, Piotr's Russian though, so the Spensnaz might come out of the bushes and start whatever. But yeah, I like that we have a new champion. We've kind of seen Jose Aldo as a champion a lot, and I mean he's been a champion twice for God knows how many years. And yeah, I think as good as Jose is though, I think he needs to maybe retire. That guy's taken so much damage in his life. I don't think he needs to fight anymore. As much as I would like to see him fight, he's 0-2 at bantamweight. And I don't know. I feel like he's done more than enough. I don't really know where he can go from here, but it's tough.
It'd be cool if the referee didn't let him fucking die.
That fight went on for so long. And for those of you who didn't watch it, it was basically the fifth round near the end. It was basically Petr Yan just smashing the back of Jose's head for about 2 minutes straight as the referee stared at him playing
And
Candy
said, "Fight
Crush.
back."
Yeah, and guess what? Jose didn't fight back at all. He was just, I think he was unconscious on the ground. He was just face down in the fetal position, face against the mat, just covering
Man.
up for so long.
Some of these refs suck so bad.
Dominic Cruz would approve of that, though. That's a Dominic Cruz ref right there. That's perfect.
It's another one of those things like the judging where like everyone looking at it is like there's something wrong here. Like this is the wrong decision you're making, whether it's, scoring it for one fighter or not stopping it a minute sooner or like why do we just tolerate this garbage?
You can't look
man?
at that and say this is how it's supposed to be. This is the correct decision. Jose is supposed to be dying right now. This is what the rule
Like,
set
why?
implies.
Why are we? It's like it's not controversial. It's not. No, it's not like it's dividing people. Like people are arguing about it on Instagram and Twitter. Like, I think this. No, I think this. No, everyone feels the same way. Everyone feels, oh, this went on too long, or, Alexander Volkanovski didn't win this fight. If there's a reason everyone is saying these things. It's not just they're all echoing each other. I get that that's part of it, but it's not completely that. It's that we're not all idiots, despite what people like to believe about MMA fans. We're not all just looking at it like a bunch of donks who don't know anything.
Most of us are,
yeah, okay, yeah, most of us are, but
including me.
but still, like, man, why do we have
Who was
to deal with
that judge?
Leon Roberts?
Leon Roberts. He's normally not that bad.
No, he's not.
I think he had a lapse in judgment. He started like having a flashback or something like that.
Yeah, and I mean, don't get me wrong, we do see it from the best guys time and time again, like Jason Herzog with the Anthony Smith fight. Jason Herzog is a terrific referee. I mean, that dude is good. I love him. But yeah, he made a bad call there. So I guess, yeah, it does happen. It's unfortunate. It doesn't seem like a tough call to make,
That was
like when everyone is saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Now, I get that we're not in that position. There's only one guy in that position, Leon Roberts. He's the only person that's in there, in the cage, in the heat of the moment. We're all looking at it from afar, and we're looking at it retrospectively. But, like, dude, come on. It's not that hard to see that was done 60 seconds ago.
I think there was a robbery last night, and it was Jose Aldo's brain cells. They're gone. That poor guy. He took a beating that he really shouldn't have.
Speaking of bad judging, someone gave the fight to Andrade, and they just need to stop. You need to stop. Oh my God. It's so obvious, man.
How do you fuck that up? That's my question.
1 and 2 for Rose, 3 for Jessica. It's simple math.
It's literally the simplest math you can ever acquire.
It's not that hard. God.
It's 1 plus 1 and then 1. So
why are we making this so complicated, so difficult? It's not that hard, man. These guys suck. I hate them, Matthew. They ruin everything. Luckily, there were 2 judges who weren't completely clueless, and they gave the fight to Rose, as they should have. Rose fought a terrific fight. Dude, watching Rose Namajunas fight is just always spectacular. Her striking is just insane. She's such an insanely good boxer. Her footwork is off the charts. Her head movement is just perfect. She has these clean, crisp, quick strikes. She's great at just moving laterally while striking. The overall objective of the game is hit your opponent and don't be hit by your opponent. Nobody embodies that better than Rose Namajunas. Of course, her nose got messed up and her eye got swollen shut, but that's because Jessica Andrade also made a lot of improvements. Jessica Andrade did not look bad at all last night. Like that 3rd round, she was kicking ass. She was way better than she was in her last 2 fights, which is ironic because one of them she won a title. Like, it's crazy to think that Jessica Andrade had a championship fight in which she looked bad but got the title, then rematched the same opponent and looked better but lost. It's so
Yeah.
weird. But yeah, she did look better last night. I wouldn't hate seeing a third fight. Uh, I don't know how either of them stack up to Zhang Weili. I think Zhang Weili is still better
Plus,
than both of
she's a
them.
specimen.
She's a special athlete. Obviously,
Oh
I think
yeah.
Rose has a better chance. Rose is a former champ. She beat Joanna Jędrzejczyk twice, which is a massive feat in and of itself. And then she came back last night and beat Jessica very convincingly. Her boxing is just crazy good. Watching her strike is just an absolute joy. Um, One of the best strikers in the entire sport, if you ask me. So it will be interesting to see how she stacks up against Zhang Weili. I think it's going to be a very tough fight for her, very tough. But I think she's got a shot.
I wonder how that fight would have gone if it was a 5-round fight, not a 3-round fight. Because obviously you saw Rose win the first two, and then the tide shifted on that third. I wonder if there was a fourth and a fifth, if this was another title fight or a main event or whatnot. I wonder if Jessica Andrade would have been able to bring it home, because she was really ramping up near the end there, and that's because
I,
Rose was hurt. But Rose probably could have recovered, but
I
maybe
don't know if
not. I don't
Jessica's
know.
cardio would have held up.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm just speculating. I have no idea.
I think
But
Rose has much better cardio, but
yeah,
you can't knock Andrade's power and how she hurt Rose there near the end. That was impressive, and I don't
her
know.
defense was way better in this fight too.
Yeah,
In the first fight, dude, it was like Rose was hitting a punching bag.
yeah,
I mean, she was just teeing off on her. She made it look easy. This time, Jessica had much better defense. The head movement was good. It was a little like,
excessive.
yeah, to the point where it got like I think predictable.
Yeah,
Like Rose is like, okay, she's just going back and forth. So if she's just moving her head the same pattern I can get a beat on that. It's harder than hitting a still target, but it's not as hard as hitting someone like, I don't know, like Dominic Cruz or someone that has a little more like unpredictable, sporadic movements. It got a little pattern,
yeah,
like there was a very obvious beat to it, and Rose was picking up on that, because like I said, Rose's striking is just phenomenal, and she's able to match that rhythm and then hit her on the half beat and really, just stagger her and set her off balance and interrupt that pattern and that rhythm. But yeah, I don't know if Jessica's cardio would have held up. Part of me thinks the reason we saw such an improvement and such a sense of urgency in the third round is because it was just a 3-round fight. I think she knew she was losing. I think she knew
yeah.
she lost that first two. Her corner told her she was up 2 rounds. That was blatantly false,
I felt
but
that was a
whatever.
bad move, but I mean, it didn't really stop her from
I
trying
think
to get that
she,
finish.
yeah, I think she knew. She
Yeah,
knew she was behind. Obviously, one judge saw it the other way, but whatever. He just listened into the corner. He was like, "Okay, if they say it, then I guess,
yeah.
I guess that's true." But yeah, I think there was a sense of urgency to really get the finish. Don't know if we would have saw that same urgency in a 5-round fight, and if so, I think maybe her cardio would have fell off. I think she would have maybe gone more to her wrestling. I think she would have given Rose a much harder time had she wrestled more, had she employed a more Kamaru Usman like style than a just toe to toe striking match, because you toe to toe striking match, Rose could beat the best of them. She really can. Striking's phenomenal. I think the only other women's MMA striker that is up there with Rose would be Valentina Shevchenko in terms of just like technical precision and just mastery of, moving in and out, maintain her range management is perfect. She manages distance like so perfectly. She does a great job at, because Jessica's the smaller fighter, so she does this great job of just using the jab to keep Jessica back, and sometimes she'd clinch up with her and just push her back. just straight up shove her and get her at her range, at the range she wants. Like I said, the fundamental basics of the game: hit and don't get hit. Nobody does that better than Rose. Nobody. Like, she's able to just get in and out so well, maintain distance, land the jab, land the straight, doesn't do anything crazy. She'll throw like a flying knee here or there, she'll throw a teep kick or whatever, but she just relies on the fundamentals, and it's so beautiful to watch. Whereas Andrade is a little more like reckless, right? She has more of like a charge you and throw crazy looping hooks kind of thing, and just relies on raw power. Whereas Rose has power, but she relies so much on her precision and her footwork, and keeping her opponent at a range that is comfortable for her. It's so good to watch. I'm so happy Rose. Obviously, I'm a Rose fanboy. I think she's my favorite female fighter on the whole roster, and it's just great to see her back in it. Not just physically, because physically she was never not in it, right? Even in the first Andrade fight when she lost, she was in it. I mean, she was on fire in that fight. But she has been open about her mental distance from the fight game, and how there was a time where after the Andrade fight, even before the Andrade fight, the first one, she just really wasn't feeling it anymore, and she just really wasn't into it, and she probably got kind of complacent being a champion. And then and last night it just looked like it was all coming back to her. She was just back in it, back in the game, and that was good to see. I love Rose so much. She's terrific in and outside the octagon. And of course, she said in her post-fight interview she's auctioning off her fight gear for her name is Susie. She is a UFC employee. She's like their I don't know her specific role. She works with UFC like fashion and stuff. Like I guess let me just, out of respect for her. But anyway, Susie diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer, I believe it was, and Rose was auctioning off her fight gear and donating her money.
It's good to see her doing that and giving back to her, because she's a good-hearted person, and I like to see that part of that side of mixed martial arts. It's not all about just battering your opponents. A lot of it is about doing good for the world, and good for Susie in this case. So it's nice to see that.
She's UFC lead wardrobe. That's her role. Her name is Susie Q.
Susie Q.
That's I mean, I don't know her actual last name, but that's her name on Instagram. And she seems like she's just absolutely beloved by the UFC family. Everyone was reposting her video and stuff. John Anik, Dana White, everyone. So that's some unfortunate news, of course, but it's cool to see Rose. I want to say Max was doing it too, not for her. He was doing it for he said something about Hawaii's unemployment rate was like astronomical, and he was auctioning off fight gear and donating and stuff. Yeah, I mean, they're the embodiment of martial artists. People like Rose Namajunas and Max Holloway, both terrific strikers.
Look at that.
Coincidentally, both some of the best boxers in their respective divisions. But yeah, it's really great to see these people just doing good outside the octagon. John Anik said it to her in the post-fight interview, and I couldn't agree more. She is everything that embodies the good side of martial arts. So I love Thug Rose. I will always root for Thug Rose. I may have a huge crush on her, but that's irrelevant because she's happily married to Pat Barry, and he's a scary man. I really like him as well.
He's cool.
He's a cool dude. Him and Trevor Whitman, just fantastic job working with Rose. They seem like terrific trainers, corner people. It's great to see.
Well,
that was the biggest positive for me last night. Honestly.
Dude, honestly, I would say the same thing.
I wish the fucking card ended at that fight. because everything else just depressed me. It depressed me seeing the referee not give a shit about Jose getting battered. It depressed me to see the judges absolutely screw Max Holloway, and it depressed me that the Jorge Masvidal Kamaru Usman fight was just so uneventful. All of that depressed me. But hey, Rose Namajunas,
Yeah,
she makes me
Paige
very happy.
VanZant had the performance of the night, looking excellent against Amanda Ribas.
Amanda Ribas is awesome.
I love her.
She is
She's
great.
got that energy.
She is great. She is going to be a huge star in the sport. I guarantee it. She's everything. She's very fun, very likable, very entertaining and funny, and her jiu-jitsu is insanely good. Yeah, she's going to go a very long way.
And I think
Whereas PVZ, Dana White told her test out free agency.
is she gonna leave now? Is that like confirmed?
Well, her contract is up, and she has been talking all week about not being with the UFC. She has talked more about not being with the UFC than her fight with Amanda Ribas. That's why fans are like so tired of her, right? Like she gets a lot of unnecessary abuse. Don't get me wrong. Like you look at the comments on her Instagram. It's like it's shitty. You know, it's people telling her, "Oh, go do porn instead." You know, it's bad. People shouldn't be so shitty to her. She seems like a very nice person. But yeah, all week she was just like, yeah, I don't get paid enough, and my contract's up, so free agency's looking good. She's been saying that all goddamn week, and then Dana was basically, after the fight, like, yeah, she should do it. I guess she should try it out, because she got absolutely smoked.
Oh.
And, you know.
It's true.
I mean, hey, it's the message you put out there, so I guess
she just doesn't seem into it at all anymore, and
nah,
I don't blame her. It's
all.
not an easy sport, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of hard to get excited about fighting people if that's not who you really are. And she seems like such a nice person. I don't think she wants to do it.
She's not getting paid a lot, so
nah, like what's the point?
Screw it. Go
to
do
Dancing
something
with the Stars, you know?
Yeah,
she's talented. She could dance like no one else. Like she's a
good dancer.
She could be in movies. She could do whatever she wants. You know, she's basically a star, and she looks great. She's talented. She's got a good personality. She can do anything she wants, and I hope she finds what she's looking for. I don't know. I'm curious to see where she's gonna go.
I don't think her future is in the UFC. And I don't think that's a bad thing. No. Like, hey, you don't want to do it. Like, that's fine. Go do whatever makes you happy, you know? Because she did not seem into this fight at all. Leading up to it, she didn't seem into it. After in it, when she was in the octagon, she just doesn't seem there, you know? She doesn't seem like her heart is in it.
No.
So go do something else. Go do something that makes you happy, you know?
Yeah, the worst thing is seeing someone who clearly doesn't want to be in the octagon have to be in the octagon, you know? If someone needs the money or it's their only job or whatnot. And I applaud people who realize, like, I don't need to be here. I don't really like it. It's been fun, but I'm gonna try something else. I think that's awesome. So
it's better than overstaying your welcome and getting hurt. So
and she does she takes a good bit of damage in her fights, so it's nice to see her kind of get out of that. She's a good fighter, but she's not at the top level, and that's fine, you know. But you know, I think she could do whatever she wants. So
do you think she'll go to Bellator?
No, actually, Austin Vanderford is there, so.
I don't think she's done fighting.
Here's the thing, though. If she goes to Bellator, she can get a lot of money from sponsorships. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's not a bad option. True. If she were to try something else and then say, kind of want to fight again, you know, that happens to a lot of fighters. I mean, look all over the place.
True.
Curious when Henry Cejudo is going to come out. He was tweeting a lot of stuff at the bantamweight champ and
he was.
And Jose. I thought the funniest thing on the card was I don't know if you saw, but Michael Bisping tweeted at what's his name? Dan
Henderson?
Dan Henderson, yeah. For some reason I couldn't recall his name. Dan Henderson said something about the UFC event, and he was like, unfortunately, I have to listen to Michael Bisping commentate, and now I have to. Good thing I made him snooze. Did you see what Michael Bisping said to him?
No, what did he say?
Oh, this is worth looking up. So in between commentaries, he was tweeting at him while he was doing the actual fight commentary. Oh, it's so good. It's not something you would see.
Are you looking it up?
Yeah, I can't find it though. I wonder if they took it down. Oh, it was the funniest thing. Dan Henderson. Trust me, it's worth the wait.
I guess I'll look it up too.
I know he called him a cheating cunt and a sour fuck or something like that.
Oh, shit.
It was so good. Here we go. I think this is it. Dan Henderson said, enjoying the fights as much as possible while having to listen to Bisping. Happy anniversary to the night I put you to bed. Michael said, yeah, on steroids, mate. You cheating cunt. No honor, no surprise. Then I beat you with one eye. Get fucked, sour bitch. During the fucking commentary.
Oh, dude, they went back and forth a lot.
Oh, did they? I didn't see anything else.
Yeah, Michael said, never won the UFC belt. Don't be sour, you old wanker. Now disappear back to obscurity.
Oh
Drinking again and reliving your old glory, all polite to my face and talk shit online. Didn't have you down as a keyboard warrior. And then someone said, kind of ironic though, you calling him sour. You just tweeted him 3 times on the same tweet. Bro, I'm dead, laughy face. And then Michael said, nah, I'm doing my job, getting paid, and I'm amusing myself at the same time.
Wait, I think Dan responded. Did you see the fourth one?
Dan said, surprised you saw this. Guess you're not keeping your one eye on the fights as you're supposed to be commentating. No wonder why you're commentating is shit. Michael responds, says the guy that's totally irrelevant. Haha. Go on, insult my eye. So what? Shows what a true piece of shit you are. But you say hi when you see me. LOL. A real disgrace to the flag that you fly. LOL. Doesn't surprise me. Total fake. Should have known. Steroid cheating cunt.
Dude, we need to see a third fight, a rematch.
No,
this is what we need. We're gonna do it's kind of like the Tito Ortiz versus Chuck Liddell third fight. They come out of retirement, they look terrible, nobody wins. It's gonna be fantastic. I can't wait.
I like Bisping. I don't think his commentary is bad.
No, I it's definitely
Dan
different.
Hendo does sound bitter.
Yeah. I mean, what were you expecting? I mean, maybe it was like a friendly jab, but I don't think Bisping would. I don't think he likes that moment in his career.
Likes being made fun of
at
all.
Especially not that moment. That
doesn't seem like
moment.
The kind of guy that takes a joke too well.
That's when he lost his eye. I'm pretty sure. So that's what led to it, or something like that. I thought. I could be wrong, but I'm fairly certain. After Dan Henderson jumped on him and landed that strike, that something really medically bad happened to him, and I can't think of what it was. I feel like it was the eye, but maybe not.
He went on to win a UFC belt, became a Hall of Famer. So
he won the Twitter war too, in my opinion. So boom,
yeah, me too. I think so too. I heard Josh Thompson say on weighing in the podcast he does with John McCarthy. He said, "Oh, Bisping's not a legend, bro. What the fuck are you talking about?
Dude.
What are you talking about, man? He's a UFC Hall of Famer. Get the hell out of here."
I love him so much.
I like Bisping a lot.
And guess what? His commentating better than Dominic Cruz's. I'll tell you that. And I love
you
Dom.
Think so? You think so?
Dude, okay, I'm just not a fan of Dom when he commentates. I can't. I don't. Go ahead.
I'll say this. I think Dominic Cruz's commentating is more analytical and offers more like critical analysis. But it's less entertaining and it's got less personality. Like Bisping's got personality, you know. Bisping is like a larger than life kind of guy. Dom is he's very stoic. He's kind of a dick. Yeah, Bisping's a dick too, but he's funny.
Yeah, the thing I don't like about Dominic's commentating is that he's very hostile towards the other commentators.
He is. He's super hostile.
And it makes for some good banter and stuff, but it gets kind of old. Like
it gets uncomfortable.
Yeah, like someone will say something and you'll be like, "Oh, Dom's gonna come back and say something." And there you go.
Dom's gonna tell you how you're not a wrestler and how he's a UFC athlete.
And it sucks because he's one of my.
Better not have an opinion.
He kind of is my favorite fighter of all time, but his commentary kind of irks me, man. I'm not gonna lie. So I love Bisping.
You get the best of both worlds. You get critical analysis and a good, funny personality with Daniel Cormier.
I will say though, he has a great chemistry with Daniel Cormier. Great chemistry.
Better chemistry than he does Bisping.
Yeah.
I don't think him and Bisping really like each other. No, they don't seem like they do.
My favorite trio, I'd have to say, is Cormier, John Anik, and then Dominic Cruz. Even though Dominic annoys me, I think he works so well with those two.
Yeah. You know? Yeah. Daniel Cormier is good, man. He's a real good commentator. I like him a lot, and he's fun. DC is always fun. He's
Such
one
a
of the
good
funniest
dude.
dudes. Yeah, he's so fun to listen to. He's hilarious.
I want nothing more than him to come back and beat John Jones somehow. I don't know. I just want it
I
to
would
happen.
love that. I don't think they're ever gonna fight again. But yes, I would love that. I think
John
he
is.
fights Stipe in August, and that's it for him.
Oh, that's not an easy fight. But I think he could bring it home if he sticks to his guns and his wrestling.
Yeah.
But I don't know, dude. Stipe, he's gonna put that fire right out. You know what I mean? That's what he's trying to do.
I get it, because he's a firefighter. Good
yeah.
one.
Boom.
Good one.
All right,
What a garbage joke.
and with that amazing comedy, we're gonna end it there. Unless you had
Yes,
anything
we
else
are.
you wanted to talk about.
Nah, I'm
Drifting in the wind.
just sad.
Yeah,
man.
the card itself, not the best. I'm happy we get one on Wednesday and then Saturday. So
Dan
got
Ige,
some.
Calvin Kattar. I bet that's gonna be an awesome fight.
That's good. I've got Cater on that one.
Yeah.
Not gonna
Yeah,
lie.
I think I might have
Calvin's
to agree with that.
Calvin's a murderer.
Yeah.
But Dan Ige, he's a wild card too.
Yeah.
That's my analysis. Who knows?
Hey, it's impossible to predict these things unless you're me, of course.
That's true. These things.
These things. I
Mystic-
predict these things.
Mystic
No,
Cater.
I don't know. I just get lucky sometimes, I think. I don't know enough about Calvin Kattar or Dan Ige to make a real prediction. I felt like I knew enough about Usman and Masvidal to make an accurate call on that
Usman's a safe bet,
one. Yeah, he is, unfortunately.
until Gilbert Burns comes out and murders him.
I can't wait. That's going to be a really hard fight to predict, like a nearly impossible fight to predict.
That's a pick'em fight right there, in my opinion. Oh
Yeah.
man, that's a good one, dude. Imagine the sprawling and the groundwork is gonna be so juicy. I don't know if
can't
you've
take it.
seen Usman grappling with Michael Chandler. They posted some stories of them doing that. He is a fantastic scrambler, and so is Gilbert Burns. So I'm so
Who's Michael
excited.
Chandler?
He's
Is that the
in-
guy from
he's in
Friends?
Bellator. Yeah, he is actually. Wait, what the fuck? Is that not his name? Wait. Michael
No,
Chandler?
I
Is
think
there
I
might
know.
be. Okay, maybe there's two Michael Chandlers. I don't know.
I think I know who.
He's
he
like a
is.
short
No,
dude,
I was
hugely muscular. And
I was making a Friends joke because of the.
Oh, I'm
one
sorry.
guy's
Your
name
comedy is just too good. I couldn't
Chandler.
understand it.
This is like Dominic Cruz, Michael Bisping commentary right
All right,
here.
you sour old
Two
cunt,
guys
fuck
that
off.
just don't like each other, trying to.
We're desperately trying to make it
work
work.
through it.
I'd like to
Yeah.
see Bisping fight Dominic Cruz at a catch weight.
Of what?
I don't know, 155. I don't know. Bisping will be frail bones by the time he gets down to that way.
Bisping will be dust.
He's very nimble,
Dust in the wind. All right.
All right.
I gotta go to the bathroom.
Yeah,
again.
brother. Well, this has been Caffeinated Combat UFC 251. Join us on Wednesday for the next fight card, and then on Saturday.
I mean, it'll probably be Thursday because the fight is on Wednesday. We're not gonna do the podcast on Wednesday. We're gonna do the podcast on Thursday because the fight will end at like 2 a.m. All right, that's it from us.
Okay, you sour old cunt. I'll see you guys later. Thank
See
you
ya.
for joining us. And goodbye.